Well, good morning. Faced with an unprecedented threat to our health and safety, faced with a very real prospect of patients being turned away from overwhelmed hospitals, faced with consequences of inaction, this virus has consistently forced us to make decisions that no one ever wanted to make. Looking at where we are right now and how far we've come, pushing Omicron back, there's no doubt these were the right decisions. There's no doubt they protected our hospitals from collapse and saved lives. Today, we're on track to very soon remove almost all restrictions for businesses as part of our reopening plan. And we heard from Dr. Moore last week and again yesterday that he is now working on a plan that will allow us to remove the vaccine passport system. My friends, this is great news and a sign of just how far we've come together in this fight. But this progress doesn't change what we've been through, because the truth is, this virus forced us to make unthinkable sacrifices. And I know that this has been extremely difficult. Watching businesses close, livelihoods lost, freedoms restricted. None of this has been easy. People are frustrated, they're scared, they're angry. And I know these frustrations have reached a boiling point for many Canadians. The result is what we're now seeing in various cities across our province and our country. My friends, one of the great things about living in Canada is our right to free speech, the right to choose our government by voting for leaders that best represent us, the right to peacefully protest when we disagree with what our government is doing. But like all rights, these are not without reasonable limits. Our economy in Ontario is built on trade, especially with our partners in the United States. The Ambassador Bridge in Windsor alone sees more than $700 million of two-way trade every single day. And that trade employs hundreds of thousands of Ontarians who work in auto plants and factories across our great province. Those jobs feed millions of families. They are the lifeline for our province and its economy. And while I appreciate the right to protest, that right cannot and must not extend to cutting off that lifeline. We're now 2 weeks into the siege of the city of Ottawa. I call it a siege because that's what it is. It's an illegal occupation. This is no longer a protest. With a protest, you peacefully make your point and you go back home. And I know that the vast majority of the people did that. They came, they peacefully demonstrated, they made their point, and they left. And I want to say to those people, you've been heard loud and clear. Canada has heard you. My message to those still in Ottawa, to those at our border crossings, please go home. To those of you who have brought your children, please take them home. I urge you, it's time to leave. And it's time to do so peacefully. But to the very small groups who have chosen to take a different path, to those who have chosen to take a city of 1 million people hostage for the past 2 weeks, to those who've attempted to disrupt our way of life by targeting our lifeline for food, fuel, and goods across our borders, to those trying to force a political agenda through disruption, intimidation, and chaos. My message to you is this: your right to make a political statement does not outweigh the right of hundreds of thousands of workers to earn their living. It does not outweigh our right to get food across our borders. Your right to make a political statement does not outweigh the rights of 1 million people in Ottawa to live peacefully, free of harassment and chaos in their own homes. So let me be as clear as I can. There will be consequences for these actions, and they will be severe. We've already started by going after the money funding the illegal occupation. Yesterday, an Ontario court granted our request to freeze the funds from Give, Send, Go for the convoy. The OPP has also provided additional resources to Ottawa Police Services and Windsor Police Services to satisfy their recent requests for operational support. And more needs to be done. We're strengthening the tools and the powers of our police forces to resolve this situation and restore order. Let me be clear. The government does not direct our police forces, but we do set the laws. Today, I'm using my authority as Premier of Ontario to declare a state of emergency in our province. And I will convene Cabinet to use legal authorities to urgently enact orders that will make crystal clear it is illegal and punishable to block and impede the movement of goods, people, and services along critical infrastructure. This will include protecting international border crossings, 400 series highways, airports, ports, bridges, and railways. It will also include protecting the safe and essential movement of ambulatory and medical services, public transit, municipal and provincial roadways, as well as pedestrian walkways. Fines for non-compliance will be severe, with a maximum penalty of $100,000 and up to a year imprisonment. We will also provide additional authority to consider taking away the personal and commercial licenses of anyone who doesn't comply with these orders. This will not impede the rights of Ontarians to peacefully protest. It will provide additional tools to help stop the illegal occupation of Ottawa and the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor. While these emergency orders will be temporary, we have every intention to bring new legislation forward that will make these measures permanent in law. We're taking these steps necessary to support our police as they do what it takes to restore law and order. And please, my friends, make no mistake, this is a pivotal moment for our nation. The eyes of the world are upon us right now, and what they are seeing is not who we are. It's not what Canada is about. This is not how we try to change things here in Canada. We do it through the ballot box. Because we are Canadian, and we are better than that. And so, as a province, as a nation, we must collectively draw a line. We must stand for the values that define us. We must come together right now. We must heal the divide that is fracturing our society. We must come together now, not as opponents, but as Canadians. And we must see that the sacrifices we're forced to make were made for a reason. To see that because of the actions we took over the last 2 years, tens of thousands of lives were saved from COVID-19. As hard as it's been, these sacrifices were necessary to protect tens of thousands of our neighbors, our friends, our family members. And there's no price that we could put on that. So, to the protesters I say, we've heard you, and it's time to go. To the auto workers, truckers, and all those affected by the Ambassador Bridge closure, I say, we will take whatever steps are necessary to ensure the border is reopened. To the people of Ottawa under siege, I say, we will ensure you're able to resume life and business as soon as possible. And to our brave women and men in uniform, I want you to know that you have my full support as you work to manage the situation and do whatever it takes to bring these occupations to an end. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario.
Okay, we're ready to take questions from the floor. Just a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up.
Morning, Premier. Matthew Bingley, Global News. It has been 5 days now since we've seen hundreds of millions of dollars lost at an international trade route, and at the same time, Canada's trade reputation has taken a massive hit in this. It has been 2 weeks since Ottawa saw the protesters dig in there. Why has it taken you so long to come out with measures like you are today?
Well, first of all, they're extraordinary measures. I can tell you, I've been on the phone with the Prime Minister, premiers across this country, U.S. Ambassador, governors, and the mayors as well, to make sure that we do everything we can to do this peacefully. And I emphasize peacefully. We have tried and tried and tried. The occupiers in Ottawa, they are not listening. The trade problems that we would see if we didn't clear the Ambassador Bridge would be unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented. As the world is watching, businesses and people around the world are wondering, is this a safe and stable jurisdiction to invest? My answer to them is yes, it is. We said Ontario's open for business, and we will always be open for business. This is not a time for divide in our country, in our province. The toughest thing I can tell the folks out there about this whole pandemic is the divide we see from coworkers, from friends, and family. That is the toughest thing, and it's time that we come together as a country and as a province and show the world that's not what Canada's about. Canada is the greatest place in the entire world to live, to work, and to raise a family. We're going to move forward as quickly as we can to clear the bridge, to get people's lives back to normal in Ottawa. And we will use every tool in our toolbox to make sure that happens.
You said it yourself that the protesters aren't listening. Are fines enough to get them to leave, or are you giving police the powers to physically remove them?
Well, again, I just want to make it very clear that I do not, and I repeat, do not direct the police. We make the laws, the police enforce the laws. But again, we cannot, and I emphasize cannot, have people occupying cities, holding them hostage, holding millions and millions of people hostage to go to their jobs, and tens and tens and tens of thousands of people cannot go to their job because they're being shut down because the parts or the widget or the food cannot get across the border, not because of the truckers, because I can tell you folks, 99% of the truckers out there right now are working their backs off to put food on our table, to make sure parts get to the factories until we can keep the economy going. The last count I heard at the bridge, there was 5 truckers. The rest were pedestrian cars. This is about a political statement. That's what it's about. I think the world of our truckers. I support our truckers. I've supported our truckers from day one, but that is not representative of our truckers. The Trucking Association has clearly demonstrated that they are not in favor of this. So again, to the occupiers, please go home.
Hi, good morning, Premier. Colin DeMello from CTV News. This was a pretty consequential weekend, this last weekend in Ontario. You call it a siege. Ottawa police said it was an insurrection. A day later, Ottawa police, or the city of Ottawa, declared a state of emergency. On Saturday, there was, of course, a large-scale protest in downtown Toronto. There have been a lot of questions about you and your visibility. Premier, CTV News has obtained photos of you in cottage country. We've spoken with people who took pictures with you who say you were snowmobiling on Saturday, Premier. Can you explain why you decided to go snowmobiling during a stated insurrection and siege in Ottawa?
Let me make it very clear, Colin. I've been on this phone almost 24/7, along with the premiers, U.S. ambassadors, the governor, the prime minister, around the clock. Make no mistake, I have been engaged from the second this has happened, and I'll be continuing being engaged with the authorities that we need to talk to.
Fair enough, but you are not dismissing what I'm saying here. I'm asking you, Premier, were you snowmobiling on Saturday in cottage country while Ottawa was under siege, as you say?
Let me tell you, Colin, I was at the cottage. I went out on my snowmobile. I take calls till 1 o'clock in the morning. I get calls before 6 o'clock in the morning, and I will not stop until we get this taken care of. And I will continue to make sure we're engaged in every single area of our responsibility.
Premier Richard Southern with City News.
How you doing, Richard?
Good. You mentioned the end of the Vax Pass today. There's a video floating online of you being a bit more specific to that. On that, can you tell us today, sir, when this vaccine certificate program is ending?
Well, we're going to take the advice, which I have right from day one from Dr. Moore, and I've always made sure our decisions are based on health and on science. And we put this plan together well before this protest started. And it's been a plan that we've been working on for months. We're waiting for recommendations from Dr. Moore. I think we all heard very clearly last week and this week that Dr. Moore wants to move forward with these measures. And once we take that recommendation, we'll bring it to Cabinet and we'll make the decision.
But Premier, there's a video saying, purportedly of you saying, I'm going to pull the Vax Pass.
And that's
it sounds like you made up your mind, sir. Can you just tell us what that decision is?
You know something? It's based on what Dr. Moore said the previous week and what Dr. Moore said yesterday. I can be very clear, Richard, that I will never, ever negotiate that people that break the law, that people that are in there illegally and occupying cities. I base it on health. I base it on science. Dr. Moore has clearly said it's time to move forward. I look forward to Dr. Moore's measures and recommendations, and we'll continue to work with Dr. Moore to reopen safely and cautiously.
Hi, Premier. Charlie Pinkerton from iPolitics. How long will it be, can you clarify, until these new orders are put in place? And when should protesters be facing fines, the jail time that you've announced today?
Well, I'll pass it to our Solicitor General, but again, I'll repeat what I just said. I'll wait for the recommendations, what Dr. Moore brings to our Cabinet. We'll make the decisions based on that, and I'll pass the next question over to the Solicitor General.
Thank you. So as the Premier mentioned, the initial declaration will be for 42 hours. The Cabinet will be meeting tomorrow to go over further amendments, and I think that you will see in the spring legislative session that we're going to start to deal with some of these safety problems that are causing people to be on public highways, on public roads, putting themselves and the community in danger. It speaks to there is a wide difference between a demonstration that people make their point and go home, and people put their lives, their family lives, and communities at risk. That's unfortunately what we are now seeing in Windsor and, of course, in Ottawa for the last number of days, over a week. We want to make sure that people can safely go to work, access their homes, access their businesses, and unfortunately, in Ottawa and Windsor, that is not happening right now. So we are doing that with this declaration. Thank you.
Okay, and my other question is just, police have had a very difficult time trying to disperse these protesters. Obviously, that's why we're here today. What if this doesn't work? What next do you have as a tool to try to resolve this situation, and when will you escalate things?
Well, first of all, I always have, I'll always support our police, and I have confidence in our OPP, our RCMP, and local municipal police. And I'm sure they'll get the job done.
Hi, Premier. Andy Takagi with QP Briefing. I just wanted to ask you, there were reports yesterday that a quarter of the trucks still remaining in Ottawa had children among them, and that's why there was difficulty removing the trucks from downtown Ottawa. I was wondering, is there any action being considered against the parents of children that still remain in the convoy, and do you have any message to the parents and children remaining?
As I said in my comments earlier, I urge you, please take your kids home. Please get your kids home. The place for a protest occupation is not a place for children. So I urge you, take your kids home.
This will be the last question.
And my next question is, Ontario turned down a third trilateral meeting with the federal government and the city of Ottawa. Why not take leadership in addressing these protests, and why wait until you're being asked to act before sending in the OPP?
Well, first of all, we've been acting from the second this has happened. When the regions, be it Ottawa, asked for support from our OPP, they ended up getting support. I'll tell you what people don't want. People don't want another table, a bunch of politicians sitting there talking. People want to see action, and that's what we're taking. We're taking decisive action to make sure we end the occupation and we get the goods on the Ambassador Bridge traveling back and forth freely without anyone impeding their transportation. This is critical to our economy, and I'll tell you, it's not going to be tolerated. In saying that, I want everyone to work together. I want this to be peaceful, and we need to make sure that we get the goods to the facilities. Folks, I got to stress to you, we're in a critical situation worldwide economically. We have competitors breathing down our back on a daily basis. We're competing against our neighbors south of the border. We're competing against the rest of the world. And the last thing we need is an anchor around our neck when we're competing. These people need to make sure they leave the Ambassador Bridge immediately for the sake of hundreds of thousands of workers, millions of families that depend on a paycheck going into these factories, going into these auto plants, making sure food gets distributed up here. That's what this is all about. I want to thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario.
Thanks, everyone.